This is practice exercise 5. I'm going to do this exercise in C#. You're welcome to use any language you would like. I'm just choosing C# to get this set up. My goal here is to make sure that we create the test for you so you can make this problem pass. So that's your job, is to make the actual code run. So we want to find the sum of all matrix elements. So a matrix is usually a multi-dimensional array. It's an array of arrays. In this case, it's going to be a matrix that has 2 dimensions. Think of it like rows and columns. So that's the idea here. Looking at what we're doing is, given some matrix MAT, M-A-T, which is going to be a 2-dimensional array, the task is to find the sum of all the elements of the matrix. So let's look at the first example. We've got a matrix that basically is an array that has 2 arrays inside it. The first array has the values 1, 2, and 3. The second one has the values 4, 5, and 6. Here, we're going to sum all those numbers together. The expected output is 21. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6. In the second example, we've got an array, a matrix, that has 3 elements inside it. So element 1 is an array, element 2 is an array, element 3 is an array. And then inside that, element 1 has 4 elements, element 2 has 4, element 3 has 4. We want to sum all of those together. So 4 plus 5 plus 3 plus 2 plus 9 plus 5 plus 6 plus 2 plus 1 plus 5 plus 3 plus 5. Wow, that's a lot. So the answer is 50. So we're just going to sum all those together. So that's the idea here. We want to set up the test so that we can verify that functionality. So let's open up Visual Studio. I'm going to create a new project. And you could do this any way you would like. You could do this as a console app, class library. You could do a web application. You could do a rich client application, background service. I'm just going to do this as a class library since we're mainly making the test run. So I'll pick class library. And then here, let's call this sum of matrix elements. I'm going to put this in C code delete me for me. That way I know it's safe to delete. We'll leave the solution name the same. And then we'll make sure it's the latest version of .NET. Right now for me, that's .NET 9. Go ahead and create that. So there's our initial project. Now we need to add a test project. So I'll right click, say add, new project. So I've used several of these. I haven't used NUnit in a while. You could use any 3 of them, doesn't matter. So NUnit, XUnit, or MS Test. NUnit I haven't used in a while, so I'll use that one. Here, let's call it acceptance tests, which is pretty standard. And then latest version of .NET, we're good to go. All right, so now that we've got that, let's head back in. This is the sum of all matrix elements. So we're going to do matrix element summation tests. Let's go ahead and rename that class. We don't need a setup here. And this will be example 1. So let's go ahead and get this set up. So mat is going to be these values. This won't copy in C# directly. So we're going to need to make some changes here. So mat, let's go ahead and create this as, I'll do this as var. So var mat equals is going to be a multi-dimensional array of arrays. So here what we'll do is we'll say, change these to square brackets. And in order for this to work, it's going to need to know the type. So let's go ahead and do this. This is going to be an int. So I'll do int32. You could also do little int, array of arrays. So now it knows what it is. So it's an array that has arrays of integers. So a little weird there. So there's our variable mat. And our expected output is 21. Expected equals 21. Now from here, we need to create a class. We could do this as a static class if you wanted to, since we're just doing a single method, but I will create an instance of a class. I recommend this certainly at the white and the gold belt level. Instance classes give us a lot more refactoring and design pattern options than static. Generally, I recommend avoiding static until you need to optimize for performance. So let's start with this. We'll say var. Var, and this will be, so we're calculating over numbers. Let's call it calculator. Equals new matrix calculator. Since we're calculating on matrices, we'll say calculator dot sum elements given mat, and this is going to be sum. And now finally we will assert on those. So we'll simply assert all right, assert that sum is equal to expected. So that's exactly what we're looking for. All right, so there's our first test. Let's go ahead and copy and paste this for our second test. Control A will select everything. Control KF will format. That'll make sure that if we use tabs, if we want to use tabs instead of spaces, that'll be nice. Make sure everything's indented just nicely. So let's change this to example 2. And now go back. We're going to need to copy these values. And I'm going to do a little find and replace magic here. So I'm going to select this, Control H. I'm going to find open curly brace. Oh, it did not do what I wanted to do. Let's try that again. Select it, Control H. I'm going to change this to selection. And then here, I'm going to change this to open curly brace. So it finds any open curly brace, replace it with open square bracket. We'll replace all. There we go, replace all. So Alt-A would be the shortcut. We'll just click on that. That'll replace all those. I'm going to do the same thing with closing. And then Alt-A or all. There we go. So that's just a quicker way to do what we did before. So there's those. The sum is going to be 50. So there's 50. Now that we've got all that up and running, we need to create our matrix calculator. We're going to do this in the class library. So in the test, let's add project reference from the dependencies to the sum of matrix elements class library. And let's just repurpose class 1 to matrix calculator. We'll rename that. Now we'll need to import the using, so we'll need the namespace. And then we'll need a sum elements method. We'll go and generate that. There's our sum elements method. All right, everything looks good there. So Matt is what's coming in. This is throwing an exception. Let's go and run our tests. Make sure they're both failing. Let's try that again. There we go. Perfect. They both failed for the not implemented exception. So we are set up. So let's go and review what we've got. Here's the test file. So we've got our test 1, we've got our test 2, the first array with the expected, the second array with the expected. Make sure your code looks like this. Pause the video if you need to here. And then our actual code is going to be in Matrix Calculator. Your job is to replace this with code that makes the test pass. Good luck.